Welcome back to the Therapy Diaries. This is Ashna Kalra, your host. It is my pleasure to introduce our esteemed speaker, Ashlesha Deshpande. Ashlesha Deshpande is a distinguished clinical psychologist and mental health educator who has dedicated over a decade of her life to understanding and addressing a wide spectrum of mental health issues. Extensive experience spans across various genders and age groups, giving her a comprehensive understanding of the diverse challenges people face in their mental health journeys. What sets Ashlesha apart is her unique approach to therapy. She has a particular affinity for conversational therapy, a technique that she has honed over the years to suit the specific needs of each of her clients. Ashlesha firmly believes that every individual comes with a unique set of circumstances that require a tailored approach. Today, Ashlesha joins us to share her wealth of knowledge and unique perspective on today's youth's mental health. Her compassionate approach and deep understanding of the human psyche promises to offer us valuable insights into addressing mental health challenges effectively. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Ashlesha Deshpande.
Thank you, Ashna. Thank you so much. And I'm really grateful for calling me on this show.
Thank you. So, could you please introduce yourself and your expertise in this field of psychology with the focus of young adults in their 20s?
I have been in this industry for the last 11 years. I am a clinical psychologist and I've also done an integrative diploma in counseling therapy. Plus, I come with a long experience of life, which is actually also very important. The reason my focus is on the young adults in their 20s is because they come with quite unique complexities and vulnerabilities, and this is the most important decade because this is a time for transitioning. This is where your childhood is getting over you and you are stepping into the real world. And I thought it was a great opportunity for me to work with this clientele because these are the leaders of our tomorrow, and that actually really motivated me to work with them.
So, how did you become interested in psychology and what made you specialize in this age group?
So first of all, ever since I was probably 17, 18 years old, I was quite good at forming connections. Having conversations came very easy to me. And at the same time, I was quite curious about human behavior, what motivates them. And I always came across as a very non-judgmental person. I'm talking this about 25, 26 years. However, it's very interesting that I never got into psychology at that time. I am a finance management graduate.
Oh, wow.
But during my 35 or 36 years of age, I started feeling that it's time for my inner calling. And that's when I decided, okay, why not get into this profession? Because I thought I was anyways very naturally inclined to it. And the reason I chose to specialize in the age group 20s, like I've even earlier said, is also very personal because when I was in my 20s, I had a lot of challenges, just like we'll be talking about. And I realized that it's very important at that age to get some mentorship, which I'm sure people of my age would be aware that at that time we did not have that access. So I'm actually in my 50s. So a lot of people my age do say that, we wish we had that wisdom then.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in your 20s is the most vulnerable, most confusing age because you're just transitioning from teenagehood to adulthood. Your parents are sort of like your enemies because you feel like they don't understand you. You need guidance, but you don't want guidance at that age. So you're right. That is actually the most crucial age in our life because we are lost. But we don't want to accept we are lost.
Yes. And it's always that once you go ahead in life, in hindsight, you feel, oh, I wish I had started this career then. I wish I wasn't so, adamant about a self-defeating belief or a thought. So I felt that, why not just try and work with them? Because, at some point, adults may be open to hearing out some guidance or reaching out to people whom they can consider as mentors. And another personal thing obviously is my daughter is now 23 years old, so I always felt that what is it to, how can I really understand? Because being a mother, I'm sure others will agree that, when it's your own children, you really struggle. So I did struggle. And then I felt, why not? Let me just get into this specific age group. And then I realized that I can connect very easily with this age group. And I think most important thing is to be relevant with them.
Yeah, I think that you're absolutely right. I think it's very important to be relevant to any age. Even if today you're talking to a 10-year-old, you have to sound relevant. Otherwise, they're not interested in the conversation with you. They already think you're old and dated and they don't want to have a conversation.
No, I think the most important life skill is adaptability and relevance.
Absolutely.
Once you become aware of that, a lot of things become easier.
So, in your experience, what are the most common psychological challenges faced by individuals in their 20s today, particularly those from privileged backgrounds?
Yes. See, when we talk about 20-year-old young adults, what are we talking about? We are talking about a crisis. See, at every stage, there is going to be a crisis. Just like there is midlife crisis, this is called a quarter life crisis. So what are the common challenges? Common challenges, for example, are uncertainty, because now you're suddenly in the real world.
Correct.
So there is a lot of uncertainty when it comes to your career and how are you going to go ahead in your life. Second, obviously, is anxiety coming from not knowing what lies ahead. There is also an element of feeling disappointed, sad, which can lead to depression, because you are experiencing unfulfilled expectations, because now you have come with certain expectations and then you suddenly land in reality. This is also called PGR, is what I call. PGR is post-graduation reality. Till the time you are in post-graduation, everything is structured.
Yes, absolutely.
And then suddenly you are into the workforce and reality. And specifically, if we have to talk about privileged educational backgrounds, obviously one of the most important thing is because you've had a promising educational experience, you are going to have expectations connected with that.
Correct.
A lot of people do, great undergrad programs and all, and then when they land into the real world and their first assignment is very basic, so they are not able to connect.
Connect, yeah.
Why did I learn so much? In fact, even my own daughter experienced that, and she's saying, oh, is this why I learned all this? I'm not going to do this basic work of maybe making presentations or something. So it becomes difficult for them to realign themselves into the real world. Privilege also comes with a lot of parental protection. So they are not really exposed to real world
Yeah,
experiences.
we are cushioned because, when you come from a privileged educational background, your parents will make sure that you have the best, you're protected in the best way, nobody hurts you, you don't land up in anything bad. It's not the real world. You're cushioned.
Yeah. And there's a lot of helicopter parenting, right? And of course, a lot of emphasis has been now laid into good parenting. I think, again, if I have to go back to our times, we were quite thrown in the ocean.
We were.
But when we had our children, and we just have one or two, so we are like really focused on everything, but that also plays its own role.
Negatively.
The negatively, or the flip side is that they are very cushioned. They lack resilience because they just feel that, okay, now I've finished my graduation from NYU or any other big university, and now I should get this package. And I also want to finish by 6 o'clock because experiences are important. I want to hang out with my friends, and when the real world is challenging. So that is one thing. Second is also they tend to kind of, have the baggage of fulfilling the family's expectations, because they want to carry ahead the legacy in which they have grown up. Also, one of the most important challenge that they face is between balancing independence and managing parental expectations, because I think here even we as parents are to be blamed.
Yeah.
Because we somewhere also don't allow them to take their own decisions.
Correct.
And I think the last one is obviously struggling to maintain that lifestyle. So for example, if me as a mother
You have provided.
suddenly put a stop on, kind of helping my child with a lot of money, and I've just now
Expenses,
restricted-
daily
Yeah.
expenses.
Now they are going to struggle to maintain that lifestyle because they're used to it. And I think last but not the least, which is not just for privileged but all 20-year-olds, is the social media. And I'm sure we'll be talking about social media a lot
Yes.
about the podcast, because social media comes with comparisons and curated perfection. So I think that all of that affects the psychological well-being of young adults.
But there are many instances where I hear that somebody has gone to university and they were doing very well in school. They come from all the privileges, or even if they're not privileged, I feel parents are doing their best today.
Yes.
Whether parents have the money or not, whether parents have the resources or not, they're making sure their child gets to a good university, is getting a good education, has what is considered normal nowadays, has all of it. When it comes to travel, he's able to travel. Back in the days, in the 70s, 80s, 90s, you were left to figure it out.
Yes.
I went to university. My parents weren't looking after small issues like how I was getting to university, how I was coming back, where I was staying. I was left to figure it out. But today, parents are figuring that out for the children: where they're going to live, where they're going to stay, what is going to be the travel, how they're going to live, and plus the career path they have chosen. There's career counseling. Back then there was no career counseling. We decided we wanted to become a fashion designer, an architect, doctor, an engineer. I want to go into tech. You decided that and you went into it. Today you have so much that you finally get to that place where you're in university, and then I hear lost, didn't feel like it, didn't understand, dropped out, third year, second year. Also, after some have graduated, then have not liked the field, have not understood what they were doing for the past 3 years, again feeling lost. So what do you think is the specific reason why after all of that, this sense of lost is coming in this generation?
So see, to be specific, one of the most important reason that we can point out to feeling lost is having unrealistic expectations. Because when you are equipped with the kind of education that actually takes you through a complete comprehensive knowledge about going ahead in that specific career, when you actually land, you are going to start from scratch.
Correct.
Previously the education was not so comprehensive, or there were many there were very few sectors in which there were degrees and diplomas. Now it has actually diversified. So few decades before, people were willing to start from scratch. Today's generation, or the young adults of 20s, they feel that if I know so much, how can I just do a basic job, like just doing a data entry or something? Because the truth is, you have to start from scratch. So I think one of the most crucial reason of feeling lost is not being able to see their expectations being fulfilled. Now landing from a fantasy world into the world of reality.
So, because of disillusionment, I think your conclusion is that we have landed in this space where the young adults feel like this is not the right job, or this may not be the right, because they don't want to do the basic things, or expectation via social media is so high that the sense of what I'm doing is so basic, what I'm getting is not good enough. So that lost feeling is coming. But how is this manifesting? At what age do you think this starts?
The pressure starts from like 15, 16, like I just spoke, and the way it psychologically affects is these young adults tend to start seeing the world and the choices that they are making as a very overwhelming response. In fact, 30% of young adults are experiencing depression, according to CDC. CDC is a Center for Disease Control and Prevention. 45% of young adults are experiencing anxiety, according to National Alliance for Medical Illness, and almost 50%, which is half, they are experiencing a feeling of overwhelmed anxieties or stressful emotions, according to the American Psychological Association. So imagine how much stress these young minds are taking, because they have a pressure to make it happen in life, and they are not ready to wait it out. It's like they want everything figured out now. So definitely it's impacting their psychological well-being by creating anxiety.
Do you think it's just the patience, or do you think it's also the hard work capacity? The capacity to work hard over a period of time. So I think personally in life, nothing happens in a day, right? Like we've always told your kids Rome was not built in a day. It takes years and years of experience, hard work and time. Do you think that is a reason as well?
No, absolutely. See, first of all, there is a lack of awareness because nowadays all these young adults have grown up in a world of social media projection. Okay, now what does social media show? It shows curated perfection. So if you see any reel or any post, you will see the best things about that person. That's the real life. So they basically lack awareness.
And that is a chosen moment to show the world.
Yeah, but that's a repeated exposure, right? So they are getting, they are seeing a lot of this feed that, everybody is going to super vacations, everybody is doing great in their jobs. So definitely the pressure is too much and they don't realize that, okay, what I'm seeing is a real life and not a real life.
Yeah, so it's bringing unfulfillment.
Absolutely. And in reality, resilience is something that they have not, it's not ingrained in them, So definitely they do lack resilience. But once I think they go through that experience of, in 20s, I think a lot of them go through phases, and once they realize towards 25, 26 that okay, we are in the same pool, then they start understanding the importance of working hard. But yes, initially they're not used to working that hard. So yes, 100% lack of resilience.
How has the concept of adulting impacted the psychological development of young adults?
So when we talk about adulting, what are we talking about? We are talking about becoming more responsible, becoming autonomous, taking decisions on your own, owning up to your decisions, and transitioning into the real world, right? So how it impacts the psychological well-being is because when we talk about transitioning into the real world, we already spoke about it, like the transition is a complete changeover. For a lot of 20-year-olds it comes as a shock because they are not aware about how's the real world going to be. There is a lack of mental health education, I think, which is very important, which should start from a very early age on. Maybe as we go ahead, it will definitely start.
What is the recommended age for you?
I have a very personal take. I feel right from first standard, just like we had different subjects, why can't we playfully introduce mental health as one subject? Correct. So that, just imagine, while we grow up and we reach the post-graduation level, there's so much that is kind of ingrained in us.
And awareness of your own emotions, awareness of how you feel, awareness of discussing, getting a perspective instead of in those difficult teenage years hiding it.
Exactly. Now imagine we've had sex education, we've learned biology, we've learned parts of body when we were children. Why can't we have something about mental health education? So I think we can start as early as first standard. And we can start what are emotions. And of course, there's a lot of work going on, and I'm sure now it will be a part of curriculum as well. So coming back to the main subject, how adulting is impacting psychologically. So taking responsibility, it gets difficult because they've never taken any responsibility. They don't know how to, own it and be responsible for the decisions. Also, forming connections with the outside world, having meaningful connections. So all of this is definitely kind of becoming stressful. Sometimes when it's too overwhelming, they start feeling anxious, and it may lead to depression as well.
We know that you specialize in the 20 sector, in the young adults. So in your practice, can you tell us how often do you encounter issues related to lack of work ethics or motivation among privileged young adults? And what are the underlying causes for this?
See, I do experience young adults who are struggling on the motivation part. Work ethics, I would say it's 50-50 because a lot of young adults now are willing to work hard. But one of the reasons that we can see a lack of work ethics and motivation. So let us go one by one. If we talk about work ethics, that is also because there is excessive parenting, right? So what happens is, because they've always got the parental support, they are struggling to be independent.
Laziness?
So, absolutely, laziness, procrastination, and what happens is there's no pressure, especially with privileged children. There is no pressure to work hard or make their own money so fast. So they kind of feel, if things are not going my way, I'll quit. So that again, like, I'm coming to the same point, that working hard, resilience, that part somewhere is not challenging them, because they know that I have my parents, they have my back. So that's one of the reason work ethics also has become challenging. Another aspect for lack of work ethics is, which is also not bad, but that needs to be in balance, is changing values. A lot of people now are putting a lot of importance on leisure activities, travel experiences, which is good. I'm not saying that you should be a workaholic, but also constantly comparing, okay, where did she travel and what is she doing as a part of hobby, I'm also going to do, and I'm going to stop at 6 o'clock. I think this is also an age group where you need to work hard. For example, I had a client whose mom, I mean, she struggled a lot, but now that she's made her own, place in her life, and now suddenly she's realized that, okay, it's time for me to hit the bucket list. So she definitely, focuses on having those breaks, and she goes
Travel and leisure.
travel, leisure. But now the daughter starts comparing. If she can do it, why can't I do it? There comes the sense of entitlement. And then she, when we have these discussions, she says that, she's such a hypocrite, because she keeps going. But when I tell her, that even I want to go and I'm going to take a break from my job, and sometimes, I mean, once she was actually contemplating to leave the job just because she wanted to go for a holiday. And then, the mother-daughter had a tiff, because the mom was trying to kind of put some sense into the daughter, but, children tend to learn a lot through observation and less through instructions. So yes, of course, there is a sense of privilege that kicks in. And when we talk about motivation, okay, so what is motivation? Motivation is actually something that kicks in after you've taken a certain action. So for example, I may go and see a good movie, say Dangal or Chandu Champion. For a moment, I'll be motivated. Even I want to do something in life.
Yeah.
But if you look at motivation, as a psychological aspect of motivation, motivation has to do with dopamine. So you have to first take an action, you get a reward, and your dopamine kicks in, and then you feel motivated to do things again. But here people are just waiting. These 20-year-olds just want instant result.
So dopamine hit happens after the sense of fulfillment comes in, right?
Dopamine hit happens after you've taken a certain action, and action requires efforts.
Right.
So that is how motivation kicks in. There is, a lot of confusion, as in, I don't feel motivated. Once I feel motivated, I will go to the gym. Once I feel motivated, I will work very hard in my career, or my colleagues are very depressing, so I don't feel motivated. But it is also about how much effort are you ready to take. And
I think motivation is anyways to do with self. No one's going to come and motivate you. It's to do with how you're feeling. Like you said,
Yes.
if the young adults are saying, I don't feel motivated in my job, I don't feel motivated in office, my colleagues are depressing, my colleagues are not motivating, they're not going to come and motivate you. It is your mindset, right?
No, the only difference that what you're saying is about the intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. But motivation has to do with rewards. So sometimes my motivation will come from outside. Like I get a reward outside, but the starting point is action. And that is where I think,
We are lacking.
yeah, the young adults are lacking, because they just want to first feel excited. Sometimes some movie or watching somebody's success can initially give you that push, but if you don't work hard, if you don't get out of your mind and get into the action zone, you will not be having a sustained motivation. And I must say here that a lot of my young adults who come for therapy, and it is good they come for therapy, but I have also seen a trend of getting into too much of discussions and less of action. Yeah.
So they are happy to come, talk, vent, go home, and they do nothing about
Yeah,
it.
there's a feel good because we've had a great session, and they're like, yes, I'm going to do this, and when they come in the next session, and when I check,
Nothing has happened.
yeah, they haven't really put in the efforts. So yes, there is a trend of lack of motivation, 100%, and I would appeal to all these young adults to get into the action zone. That's it.
Absolutely. And I think getting into the action zone is the most rewarding part. If I think about playing a sport and I think about it, but I say there's no motivation to go and play this sport. Obviously, nobody's going to come and say, come get up, here's a racket, or here's this, you have to play this sport. But the minute the action starts going and I start going and I start playing and I start feeling good about it, that reward, that dopamine will hit, and automatically that reward will come and the motivation comes in. So I think action means you starts from you. Right? Action can't start from anywhere else. It has to start from you. So I think that is a great message for our listeners, for our young adults.
And actions are the ones that are going to give you your happy hormones or your neurotransmitters. So you have to just get up and move, get out of your mind. That's what I would say.
So tell us, how does the overwhelming array of life choices available to young adults today contribute to their lack of clarity or direction in life?
Yes, there is a lot of awareness and information exposure out there, and what happens is what we call decision fatigue or decision paralysis. They kind of keep weighing too much about each option, and then they are not able to kind of take that decision, and they're exhausted. There's a sense of paralysis, and I have a lot of my clientele in the 20s who come and they keep discussing, but if I choose this line, if I decide to do my master's, then I'm losing 2 years of my precious time which I can put into business. But if I take business and then I fail in my business and then I don't have my postgraduate degree, so and kind of I feel, okay, both the perspectives are right and I cannot influence them to take a specific decision, but and they are so intelligent, Ashna. They are so intelligent that sometimes I'm very impressed that, wow, this is great stimulation to the mind, but then they kind of get exhausted there. Another thing that happens is FOMO, right? All of us call fear of missing out. So, for example, if I decide to take up a specific job, see, none of us know what lies ahead.
Correct.
Right? So, for example, if I am choosing psychology, but I'm also interested in acting. Okay, so now I feel, what should I choose? Should I choose psychology? Will I be a great therapist? Will I get those kind of clientele? Will I make this kind of money? We don't know. It's all about,
taking it as it comes.
To another. But then you feel, okay, but then by the time I become a therapist and by the time I get into this profession, I'll cross the age of 24, 25, and what if I would gotten that break in modeling or acting? So I think there is a lot of FOMO happening here, and I think the third thing is, because of all of this, they are finding it extremely difficult to choose and weigh the options.
Yeah, I think also you said FOMO, it's also comparison with friends. So if two people are doing postgrad degrees, the third person may not even want to do it, may be really good at business, maybe really good at finance, maybe really good at numbers, might be getting a good job at a bank, but will think, maybe I'm missing out because two of my closest friends are doing this postgrad, maybe I should go ahead and do it as well. Right. I think that makes them confused as well. Because there's so much guidance being sought today from just your friend circle. I think heavily I see kids are influenced by what their friends are thinking, what their people in the same age group are thinking, or what they're doing. We should be doing it as well, otherwise I'm not good enough.
And there is also a sense of failure coming, because they're very anxious about, what if the line that I choose is not the right decision? What if I'm making a mistake? But I think the most important thing to understand, and of course because we are ahead in life experience, so easier said than done. You know that you only learn through your mistakes.
You do.
So it's a little difficult for them, but I would definitely tell all my 20-year-olds that go ahead, make mistakes, because every path is going to lead you to, your identity formation, and you're going to become into a much more transformed person. So it's just about choosing one line and sticking with it, because I think eventually hard work pays. There is an element of luck, but that's very less.
So, since we are discussing young adults, and young adults means you're between your 18 and 25. Nowadays, between 18 and 30 is considered young adult, and there are a lot of milestones. So, what according to you are the psychological implications of delayed milestones, such as marriage, home ownership, starting a career, having a successful career for individuals in their 20s?
See, I would say that there are positive and negative implications on your psychological well-being. The positive implications of delayed milestones are you get more time. You get more time for self-awareness. You get more time to equip yourselves with different, lines of education, be it life skills. Also, because you have not run behind achieving those milestones, there is a sense of security, a sense of
Contentment of who you are.
contentment, because you haven't yet started with the debt of owning a house, taking responsibilities. So on one hand, if you are self assured, I think psychologically you can really feel at peace, because now you're not going with the outside pace.
You're not chasing that by 25
Yeah,
this, by
yeah.
30 this, by 35 this.
Yeah, so in fact, delayed milestones can actually help you have a very positive impact on your psychological well-being, provided maybe you've got access to maybe a good mentorship, therapy, or even parents can influence them.
Good guidance.
Yeah. But at the same time, of course, delayed milestones do tend to create a negative impact on your psychological well-being, because there is a feeling of being left behind. So there is a lot of emotional restlessness, a feeling that I'm not good enough.
Good enough.
There is a sense of self-doubt where you've now started questioning your own abilities. So it can also impact in terms of your self-esteem, confidence, also feeling isolated, because once, for example, if all of your friends are married and they've got kids and you've not yet got married, and when you meet them at a social event, they're all talking about their babies or pregnancies, and you've not yet found that right one. So it can definitely make you feel out of place, and am I the odd one out?
I'm not good enough.
I'm not good enough. So they start having that, imposter syndrome, or kind of start questioning their own abilities. So yes, sense of isolation, feeling disconnected from the world, feeling anxious, overwhelmed that I have to achieve it no matter what. So
Do you think these milestones were made to, create balance, or you think these milestones were created so that everybody would kind of follow a pattern and it'd be easier for society to progress?
see, definitely I would say that a structure helps. No matter what it is, a sense of structure does help, because when you get married, also what helps is to have a feeling of a safety net. There's someone to go home to. Because let us face that we are all social animals and we all need to feel safe.
Correct.
So yes, of course, I think it was created as a part of having a safety net around you, because if you're going to take up a commitment in terms of starting a family, you also need to be able to fund those responsibilities.
Yeah.
So that, see, stress is not always bad, right? So some amount of stress is needed for us to go and get propelled into the right direction. So
Yeah, I think achievement also comes from certain amount of stress. Absolutely.
So I think all of these milestones were created as a map. But now, with the changing world and the dynamics that are changing, it's okay for all of the young adults to not follow a specific path. Do not, get into the social media perfection. Follow your own pace, but just make sure that you're not kind of being a victim, where it's okay. Like, for example, I've heard a lot of clients saying round is a shape. No, sometimes it's also a way of procrastinating, not getting into the world of fitness and not taking your health seriously. So make sure you're not using this as an excuse.
Delaying milestones. I don't need to have a career at 30. People have successful careers at 50. I'll figure it out when I'm 45. But what does that mean? You're wasting your 20s and 30s being lazy because you've used that excuse. So I think it has to be very smartly thought of that, are you at a delayed milestone because it didn't work out for you? So don't have low self-esteem, guided by a therapist.
Absolutely.
That never mind, try something else. Or is it just that you're being lazy?
Exactly. I think what is important, Ashna, here is clarity of thought.
Yeah.
It is okay that you've tried hard and you've not yet got the result right now. That's fine. But if you're just doing it because you're running away from responsibilities,
Which I think could be the case.
yeah, there's this very cliche phrase that people say, live in the moment.
Yeah.
But there's a difference. Living in the moment is mindfulness, but living for the moment. A lot of us, I see
Yeah,
they live
that's
for the moment. Now, if you're going to live for the moment, of course, there are going to be negative implications, right? So,
Yeah.
like you very rightly said, have a clarity of thought.
Yeah, you should know why.
Who are you? What is it that you want in life? And if you feel, and it's also okay if you feel that I am somebody who doesn't want to get married, fair enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't need to get into that trap of family judgment. What will society say? What will my peers say? But make sure that you are not running away from, like we are repeating this time and again. You're not running away from taking efforts, from actions, because I think action is the mantra for the 20-year-old.
Or you're living in a disbelief that because my friend didn't do it and my cousin didn't do it and it wasn't successful for two other people, then I shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah. That is actually very relevant right now, because
Yeah.
I see a lot of these 20-year-olds saying that, what's the point of getting married? Tell me one marriage which is doing good.
Yeah.
But, that's not how it is. Marriage has its own, benefits. It definitely gives you a lot of security and foundation. And of course, marriage is not easy. You have to work hard. I hear a lot of people saying, I'm not getting into commitment. But at some time in life, you will feel left out and alone. So, but I'm definitely saying that, be very rational about why you're choosing a delayed milestone.
Correct. Absolutely. I think it's very important to know the reason for this delayed
Exactly.
milestone. It shouldn't just be laziness or you're imitating somebody that you look up to or who is in your circle and you feel like it's working for them, it'll work for me.
Yeah. And I think what will help is also probably going to a mentor or a therapist or having open discussions with parents. And hence, I would also here encourage parents to be more relevant with their children and hear them out, understand them, and help them out.
How do societal expectations of success conflict with the reality faced by many young adults? And what is the psychological impact of this gap?
See, when we talk about society, what are societal expectations? Very cliche expectations. Grade, education, attainment. Okay, one should have a great degree. Second is early success.
Yeah.
Third is in time marriage, great relationship, kids. Fourth is home ownership. Oh, you haven't yet bought your own house. And all of this, what happens is these have become very typical milestones. And if you see in reality, what happens is not all can get that kind of education, right? Because there are so many institutes that have come up. We are not very sure about which institute to go. Not all can afford that kind of invested in that education. Now people end up doing MBAs here and there everywhere. So they start feeling, okay, I haven't, graduated from a particular university. I am not from an esteemed university. I am not from a great school. Second is early career success. We see parents talking about, my daughter's got this job and she's got this package and she's doing very well. Now everybody, because say my friend is expecting me to say the perfect things, I may also mask it. And I may say, my daughter's got a package of these many lakhs and this. And now she started questioning, okay, why is my daughter not having this kind of now all of this gets transferred into the young adults. So early success, now we all know that career success is a matter of a long duration, right?
Yeah, it is.
You can just get the first break, but how many young adults you see that they start quitting jobs? And the job market is volatile. Not many jobs are available out there. Delayed milestones. See, people are still trying to figure out relationships in today's world. I think we will talk about relationships as we go ahead, but we know that it's becoming more and more difficult for people to navigate through their relationships, form meaningful, long, sustainable relationships. As a result of which, what is happening is delayed milestones. Marriages now are getting pushed to the age of 30 to 33. So that also becomes like a pressure on the young adults that, okay, I've got 2-3 breakups going on. When will I get married?
Yeah, because the society expects that by a certain age you have to settle down.
Yeah. And also the cost of living is very high. So owning a house is not that easy right now. So all of this contributes towards a lot of pressure on these young adults. And of course, see, it starts with stress, okay? Then it starts with accumulation of stress. So your body is constantly firing cortisol. So you're always stressed. That gets converted into anxiety. Feeling anxious all the time makes you feel like, things are not under my control. I have nothing to look forward to. That can lead to depression. So definitely we as a society have a lot to contribute in building a good, healthy psychological well-being for our young adults.
So, since we've spoken about education leading to your young adult life. Tell me, in what ways does the education system contribute or fail to address the challenges that are faced by young adults in transitioning to independent life?
See, education definitely contributes. We cannot deny the role of education, because education helps you with the foundation knowledge that is required for future learning. Education also helps you with critical thinking, analysis. Also, it helps you to learn communication skills. So definitely the education has improved, and there's a lot that education can contribute. But yes, ways where it lacks in helping young adults develop a good foundation in their life is by not being able to connect the academic
Life to the real
knowledge
world.
into the real world. Because when it comes to implementation, I think we are still figuring it out. Of course, I do see a increasing trend in the educational system where a lot of internships are encouraged, and people do tend up real life projects. But also, when it comes to real life, education tends to also not focus on how you can handle with your failures, how you can deal with the day-to-day stress, how real life can be challenging, and how you need to work on your self-defeating thoughts and belief systems. So
I think it's very interesting, what you said about EQ. I think EQ actually in the long run helps more than IQ. Can you expand on that a little bit?
see, when we talk about EQ, we are talking about emotional intelligence. Now, we all know that at the end of it, everything deals with human connections, right? So, it is very important to understand your own emotions, understand how will you regulate your own emotions, when you're going through a difficult patch, or when you're going through, challenges.
Or career choices, marriage choices.
So your emotions are going to kind of be unstable, and you are going to get into different mood swings. Plus, it is very important how you form meaningful connections, be it with your colleagues, be it with your children, be it with your spouse. So emotional intelligence is something where the education system really needs to kind of step up and help all these young adults be ready, that
For the world.
for the world, because things are not going to be easy, and I cannot just succumb to my pressure and anxiety and kind of quit. So I think emotional intelligence is something the education system can now very strongly look at and help, kind of step up in terms of developing the mental health, because health is the main pillar, right? So physical health, mental health, financial health, that is also important. So I think life skills can be taught. For example, budgeting, saving, cooking, house management things. See,
Self-esteem.
20-year-old adults getting into the real world is not only restricted to career. Education should now get into a more comprehensive, holistic approach and help individuals deal with the real world.
How do you deal with the dynamics of a young adult in your own home with all the challenges that she may have faced? How have you dealt with that?
That's a very interesting question, Ashna, because now I am on the spot. So I won't deny that there are times where I want to actually step in and take a decision for herself. I want to protect her, but at the same time, because I am a psychologist, I am a therapist myself, I have to confront my own fears, right? So while I may slip up, but there are times where I feel that, okay, she's not doing the right thing, because she recently had quit a job because she couldn't deal with the pressure in the in her last job, and I somewhere felt this was not a good decision, but it was very important for me to allow her to take that decision.
Yeah, I think that's so difficult as a parent, right? To watch your child, I wouldn't say make a mistake, but kind of take that bullet, because that's the only way they will grow. I think that's very difficult as a parent.
And I think it is very important for we as parents, now that our children are in the the age group of 20s, to have a good balance of being a parent and being a friend. So that's something for all of us to learn, because sometimes what they need is just knowing that
You're there to hear them out.
we are there for them. And in fact, I've learned that when I've just been a listener to her and I've just kind of been relevant to what she's saying, she actually now wants more and more to talk with me, and I really enjoy that part. And I've learned on the job to be that parent where I can encourage her to be more independent.
So tell us, how do you approach treating depression and anxiety in young adults who seem to have everything going for them on the surface, but so much discontentment in life? How do you deal with that?
See, when these young adults, feel that everything's going good for them, that is sometimes just the tip of the iceberg, because initially things seem very nice. You meet a new girl or a guy and you just start dating, you feel she's the best, he's the best. When you get a job and you've got that package, you feel amazing. But, as you go ahead, things start unfolding themselves. So the way I approach these young adults is to first help them with self-awareness, helping them through psychoeducation. And when I say psychoeducation, is to help them understand what are their thinking errors, what are their irrational belief systems. How sometimes we think distorted in terms of black and white thinking, catastrophizing, or disqualifying the positive. And disqualifying the positive means, some people are not very good at taking appreciation. Some people are not good at taking criticism. So these are the ways where people initially may not realize, but when they go ahead in their life, they will stumble upon self work is very important. So I think self awareness is one way which all these young adults, even though initially they may feel things are going fine, but they need to understand who they are, become more aware. So I think therapy definitely helps to kind of unfold what are the underlying causes. There will be certain patterns that they are repeating, and how these patterns can actually trap them going ahead. So I think each and every 20-year-old should get a little bit into self-reflection and self-awareness.
So tell me, how do you help your clients in their 20s develop resilience and coping mechanisms for dealing with life's uncertainties?
So here the most important thing is to get into an open discussion in understanding their belief systems. Okay, what are these belief systems? These are the rules that you formed for yourself. Like some of the rules are, I need to be perfect in life. I need to be achieving at all times. I need to be feeling special. Everybody has to appreciate me. Now, these are the belief systems that are actually hampering our growth. So, the way I help them to kind of propel their way ahead is to ask them that why would you say that I'm entitled for this, or everything in my life has to be perfect, everything in my life has to be in control, everything in my life has to be certain. Like, I mean, and in a very funny way, where I do ask them that were you given a certificate when you were born that everything's going to be perfect for you?
Yeah, absolutely.
We are all, see, we are on this planet, we are all sharing resources. We are all equal beings here. So only if I lose, you're going to win, and sometimes when you lose, I'm going to win.
Yeah, there's a balance.
To being It's important to be more realistic and more rational and thinking correctly. So a lot of psychoeducation helps in making them understand.
So tell me, what impact has the gig economy and changing nature of work had on the psychological well-being of young adults?
See, again, what is gig economy and the changing nature of work is now you have blurred boundaries. You can work from home. The work is project based. Also, it's seen common to opt out of the current job and get into something else. It's okay to take a break and get into learning again. So while it does give you a lot of autonomy, it gives you a lot of scope to unleash the potential you have to kind of change gears. But at the same time, it also kind of creates a sense of impermanence, creates uncertainty. All of this causes anxiety. The traditional employer-employee relationship now is missing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So you don't sometimes feel a sense of belonging because you're constantly into a different company, or constantly with different projects. That may foster isolation. You may feel disconnected from the world.
Yeah, I think, like you said very rightly, when you're married, you have a sense of belonging. When you work in a particular company or a firm, or if I've had a job, same job for the last 10 years or 15 years,
Yeah.
I've had the same company. That's again community building. I've had the same set of people that I'm working with. I think that brings a lot of momentum.
Right.
It brings a lot of security. It brings a lot of mental satisfaction that I'm in a good space.
Right.
But I think the more uncertain it is, if it's changing all the time, people around me are changing, there's no certain partner, there's no marriage. I may have dated 10 people in the year or been with 3 people in the last 3 years. Let's just say how people's dynamics are going. It can bring a lot of, like you said, uncertainty. I think it can also bring a sense of, disillusionment, that they kind of forget who they are, because there's still that journey of figuring out.
Yes.
It's
Because
going on.
identity formation gets, it can
Hazy.
get hazy, blurred, and you may not know who am I. So I think all of this, see, gig economy is not going anywhere, right? The dynamic nature is always going to be changing. The nature of life is change, and the nature of human behavior is to resist this change
Or adapt.
Exactly. So it is important for all these young adults to see that, okay, change is inevitable, and it also calls out for different measures in terms of giving them support. So maybe some peer groups or networks, or mentorship that can help. And also, I would also suggest that when you are, see, social media technology is not bad. It is what you are looking for. So instead of having anything that makes you feel restless, I would suggest look for people who are advocating normalcy, people who are putting out their real self there.
Correct.
Out there, their authentic self out there, so that people feel that they can relate with the real struggles of life.
I think the word authentic is very important to me personally. My belief in my life is whatever is authentic will eventually work. It might take a lot of hard work, it might take time, it might not be instant. But as long as it's authentic, I think it will find its place and space. And if you see most of the successful people, or if you see most of the people who have made it in whichever walk of life they have, it is because they have been authentic in terms of what they have to offer, in terms of how they believe, in terms of who they are. They're not projecting themselves to be someone else. So I think that word is a very, very important word for this session.
And authenticity actually liberates you, right? Because imagine you get to be yourself, and imagine all of us accept each other for who we are. Because authenticity is something that's going to make you actually feel free.
Correct.
So I think authenticity is very important, and authenticity happens at 3 levels. One is at the level of thinking. That should be the same of level of feeling. Sometimes we also hide the emotion that we are feeling, we suppress it. And at the level of expressing or acting out. It's very important that we all start from our own selves, you know. What you're thinking is what you should feel, and it's okay to feel what you're feeling. And what you're feeling is how you should express. You know, it's different to kind of learn a strategical view, that is fine, but don't get into mind games and manipulation.
So, how do you address issues of perfectionism and fear of failure that may be holding individuals back in this age group?
Yeah. See, what is perfectionism? Perfectionism is again a rule that you've put for yourself, that unless and until I am perfect, I am not good enough. Now, we all know perfectionism is a myth, because we will never reach at a very concrete point. Perfectionism is not absolute.
It's a mindset.
Yeah, so it's good to have an attitude that whatever I do, I'll put in my best.
Yeah.
I'll work for it. But to say that if I am not perfect, I am not good enough and I cannot deal with it, that is going to put a lot of pressure. And you know, it's going to rob your everyday pleasure of life, of everyday joy of life. So while it is good to be efficient, while it is good to pursue perfection, but don't get entangled into this belief system that if I am not perfect, I am nothing.
What about fear of failure?
What do you call failure is very important. It's important to now educate all these young 20-year-olds that who has decided what is failure, right? Because I think failure is an excellent experience that you will have to get some wisdom. I'm sure, haven't we learned from a breakup much more about ourselves than the other person?
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, sometimes we also joke around that, okay, she got divorced and now she's married with somebody who's got divorced and got married. But they have a great marriage now because they failed in their first marriage.
They learned about themselves
a lot. And that's exactly what these 20-year-olds should also understand, that don't be afraid of failures, because failures are going to sharpen you. You know, you're going to be chiseled like a diamond, because only then are you going to learn the valuable insights in life. So I think these 20-year-olds should actually embrace this concept of failure. There's nothing to fear, because at all times, everyone, you know, each one of us has failed in something or the other, and that has made us who we are. Isn't it true for you?
Yeah, and stronger, I would say, mentally stronger to attempt it again or attempt it differently, to learn from what didn't work out. Absolutely. I think perfection doesn't really exist. It is a myth, like you very rightly said. And I think failure is almost essential in life for growth. I don't think without failure there can be growth. Ashlesha, I think we've had an absolutely stunning episode. We've had a great discussion about mental health for the youth. To end this episode, I would like you to tell our listeners what is the basic 3 things that they should follow. Would it be lifestyle changes? Would it be mental changes? Would it be a practice that you encourage to have a better future, to have a better lifestyle?
Yes, Ashna, I'm really quite excited to give my young listeners these insights, because I really find they are the most promising decade. I probably will not restrict myself to the 3 things, because this is very precious, you know, for these 20-year-olds to understand. But I would tell them to take a cap C every day, a capsule C. And when I see cap C, C is to understand what are the causes. that's kind of really stressing you? Where are you focusing at? And all of this will help if you discuss with maybe a therapist, or even self reflection. And what are these causes doing to you? A is, how is it afflicting you? Is it causing undue pressure? Is it impacting your relationships? Is it causing a lot of anxiety? Are you feeling depressed? And P is to understand that these are phases. So what phase are you going through? Are you going through a phase of reflection? Sometimes you need to evaluate what are the life opportunities or experiences out there. Do you need to go through a phase of reorienting yourself? How should I look at my life goals? How do I need to prioritize my life goals? What is the right time for each milestone, as we said? And fourth is kind of renewal. Starting to see life again as a fresh life. Every decade is going to present itself with new challenges, right? Yes. So that's the cap. And the C is go out and learn coping mechanisms. Everything has a solution. Sometimes a solution is a coping mechanism is to actually work with your irrational demands that you have on yourself. Practice mindfulness, self-care. If you need therapy, go and talk to a therapist. If you need to make meaningful connections, build on becoming authentic. So focus on your coping mechanisms. And I think the last key takeaway that I want to give all these young 20-year-olds is that first, just remember, just like every crisis, this is a crisis. We had a crisis during COVID also, right?
Yes, we did.
So, and it's gone now.
Yeah.
So just like that, quarter life crisis is normal, it's temporary. Address the challenges, address your emotions. Don't run away from that. And remember, this decade, this time is going to lead you to personal growth and transformation. So don't be afraid.
Thank you so much, Ms. Ashlesha. It has been such a pleasure having you on our show and the abundance of information for our listeners. This has been the Therapy Diaries. Until next time, take care of yourselves and one another.